Well, good evening and welcome to Be More Super Live. It's Wednesday, 8 p.m. in the UK and many times in the US, wherever you are. I think 12 noon PT. I don't know the times in America. I'm sorry. But Dan, welcome back to the live show. Thank you for co-hosting. And we're going to continue our love for Superman and Lois. But before we introduce this epic guest, what's your week been like? What's been the biggest thing that's happened to you?
Oh, I tell you what, I work in hospitality, and I know that in the States it's different because Christmas starts after Thanksgiving, right? It starts like early December, but like Christmas starts in the UK like mid-September, doesn't it? You know what I mean? As soon as the weather changes, as soon as it's warm inside the pubs, you go to the shops and you can buy the chocolates and all the rest of it. And you know, some of you know I work in hospitality, and this week has been the one. This week has been the one where I'm handing out the drinks and they're handing me my backside. It's been quite a week.
Yes, Christmas comes early in many houses. A lot of people have actually put their decorations up already because, you know, as soon as Halloween's gone and fireworks night, it's now Christmas. But we're going to introduce this epic guest. But before we do, next week, we are continuing our love of Superman and Lois with our guest, Mr. Alex Garfin. There we go. We'll be joining us live next Wednesday at 8 o'clock to answer any of your burning questions. So let's introduce this week's guest. Oh, it's popped up again. Stop it.
Yeah,
Alex.
there he is.
Get down. There you go. It gets everywhere. So this week's guest, he starred in 90210, General Hospital, Gilmore Girls, so many things. But more importantly, I know, what a lineup. And most importantly, he plays Kyle Cushing in this epic show, Superman and Lois. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Erik Valdez. Erik, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. That graphic of Alex popping up is accurate to like real life too. He'll just randomly show up in different places, so that was perfect.
Alex. I can the only way to describe him, because he's been on this show twice. It would be the third time he's been on this show. He is like a kid that's had too much sugar at a birthday party, and he's running around and he's just got so much energy. So Dan, you've got to prepare yourself. You really have to.
I'll have a Red Bull. Brace myself.
Yeah.
So you'll need it.
Welcome to the show. I mean, we're going to talk about later because you're one of the hosts of the Cars and Kicks podcast, and that is clear by your setup, sir. You're all professional there with your microphone, your headphone, and your very exclusive hat. Can I just say exclusive hat? It's all right.
Yes, this one right here.
This
is
okay.
This is not this is handed out to very few people on the show. So I like your hat there. We were talking off air a bit, and I guess you got some friends from within. So
do you know what? It's all about networking, and it's all about building those relationships. And when I got that parcel with everything in it, it was like Christmas. It really was.
I'll tell you what, I can't let this slide, boys and girls. Now, there was a moment just before we went live, ladies and gents, where Erik came on, we did a mic check and all the rest of it, and he sounds beautiful. And then there was a mention about the hat, and I'm sat here hatless, sans hat, without a hat. And Brian and Erik were showing off Brian's collection of hats, and I'm sat here without one. I feel like a bloody idiot.
Yeah, but the thing is, Dan, you have got a lovely mane of hair. That is the difference. Do you know what I mean? You pull that off. Very, very nice. I am going grey, very much so. So this is a great alternative, and I'm representing a great show.
I tell you what, I feel like wearing a hat though. And so I'm sorry, Brian. I know this has turned into hat chat, but I feel like wearing a hat when you get to mid-40s, like you and I always feel really jowly. Like if I'm going to the gym in the morning, I chuck a cap on. All of a sudden, I'm very aware that my skin's not as elastic anymore. It's just it's a lot of my face just on show. I didn't realize that I was literally a walking toupee. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like walking hair. Like, and my entire personality relies on that. But anyway, welcome to Hat Chat.
Yeah,
so I'll see what I can dig up for you, Dan. I don't know what I've got left in my closet, but. Yeah, we'll see if we can even it out a little bit.
It better not be better than mine, Erik. Better not be better than mine, and then we can play that game. See what Alex can dig up for you as well, Dan. But we will talk about Cars and Kicks podcast later on in the show. But at the moment, I mean, where are you calling in from at the moment, Eric?
I'm currently in Dallas, Texas. I moved back here a little over a year ago. We were just, I guess we were finishing up season 3, and my wife, who works in radio, hence the very fancy microphone setup here. I built this studio out for her, basically, but she got offered a job back here in Dallas, which is where she's from, and if you're married, you got to keep the wife happy. So we up and moved, and we're in Texas. And I went back and forth for season 4's episodes. I dearly miss Canada, though. I had the time of my life up there. I loved Vancouver. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But for now, Dallas, Texas is home.
But you're in Dallas. Fort
Yes.
Worth, one of my favorite places to go. I've been there.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful place. I've been there for the rodeo.
Yeah.
And I ate all you can eat ribs, which was quite
Mhm.
uncomfortable because where you eat them, they take all the cattle past the window. So you
Yeah,
feel
they
really
do
guilty.
the Longhorn cattle
Yeah.
drive down the street there in Fort Worth. That's it's like going to a sushi restaurant and having a fish tank next to you, right?
It is, isn't it? It's that moral dilemma. What do you do? So let's talk about Superman and Lois, because after season 3 it ended on such a cliffhanger, and we were
Yeah.
all devastated because we didn't know what was going on. In the news, it was announced that a lot of the cast weren't coming back. So I mean, we asked Sophia this same question as well. I mean, how did that feel for you? I mean, were you told that you weren't coming back, or was it a case of we don't know yet?
It was I mean, I remember the call vividly. I was about to go into a Panda Express and grab dinner with my family, and
Oh, dear.
all of a sudden, Brett and Todd are calling me, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "All right, look, there's going to be some stuff come out in the next half hour or so, and we wanted to talk to you before it hits the press because we don't want you to find out that way." And the short version of the story is, good news is we're getting another season. Bad news is it's not going to look like it has. And they proceeded to kind of explain what it was possibly going to look like. At this point, nobody had definitive answers, but we knew that the bulk of us cast were going to be, it was going to change pretty severely. And it did. And there was a point where we didn't know who was coming back, and if so, for how many episodes, etc. But to Todd and Brett's defense, I can't even speak today. They fought very hard to have us in as much of the storyline as possible, because our show is special. Yes, it's Superman and Lois, and those will be the anchors of the show, and the Kent family is the core, element of the show. We get that as supporting cast members. However, what made our show different for the 4 seasons that we did it was a nice balance of like family drama meets superhero show, and then it made it a little more unique in that world. And so now, we were essentially given the ultimatum of, you can leave the show as is on that massive cliffhanger from season 3, or here's your budget, figure out what to do with it, and you guys can wrap it up kind of on your own terms. And so, of course, we were all sad about how it kind of went down, but at the same time, we wanted to do right by the story and, our characters and the fans. I mean, we've had massive support from our fans since day one, or not just here in the States, but like globally. The show is, I think it's bigger in the UK than it is in the States. And
No,
like right
I'm
now,
sure it's
we're,
not.
I don't know, man. We've what was it the other day? Bitsy was posting, we're like number 2 or 3 on Max in Brazil and Latin America right now, and so our global audience has been very supportive. And so, for our domestic audience here, everybody else out there, we wanted to be able to deliver something to kind of button it up. And so I'm glad we were able to do that. It's a little bittersweet, but it was good to come back and get to hang with my now family for at least one more ride.
I mean, I'm just glad that they didn't do what a lot of networks do, which is end a show before we get a proper closure. So this is why I like
Yeah.
to watch limited series, because that there's going to be a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yep.
So when they announced it, I thought, oh dear, it's going to get cancelled. And when they announced that a lot of the cast weren't coming back, I just thought, how are they going to do it? Because this show hasn't got small characters. Every character is as important as the next one, because it builds that entire sort of story.
Yeah.
But it must be nice to hear the news that you're coming back, and that you wasn't going to be, because for a fan's point of view, it's one thing, but from a performer's point of view that's been in that role for so many years, to know that
Yeah.
you're going to get a proper send off, a bit like Dylan with his, because I spoke to him the other week, and what an epic way to leave the show. I mean, you couldn't get a better way, to be fair.
I haven't even seen the final episode. I saw bits and pieces of it when it was still in, post production, but I haven't. I've got to catch up on the show. It's been hectic over here, so I haven't actually seen the finished product yet. But man, when I read that script, it was beautifully gut wrenching, I guess would be the way to say it.
Yeah, there were some tears from me, definitely. There are moments when he turns around and he says, "Be brave" to Lois, and it's just a great way to bid farewell to a character, and he'll live on because Superman's got his heart. So when you got the script for this season, what were your first thoughts of what was in store for Kyle?
Well, early on, we kind of got a soft pitch of what they were hoping to do. It was different, obviously, than previous seasons because, going into this, season 1, nobody knew what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden we're off to a great start. Everybody internally is loving it. We get, greenlit for a season 2 very shortly after airing, I think right after airing the pilot. And we kind of knew internally that was going to happen anyway. And from that point, they kind of had everything boarded out for 7 seasons. We thought we were going to be there for a while. Everything was going great, etc. So every season before we'd film, they kind of already had an idea of where the arc was going to go and how it was going to flow over the next, 6, 7, 8 years. And all of a sudden, the rug kind of gets pulled out from underneath us. And I don't envy our writers in any way, shape, or form. They're incredible, and what they were building towards was amazing. And then you get everything kind of pulled out from underneath you. I'm overjoyed with what they were able to do this last season. I think the way they button everything up is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. But all that said, to answer your question, early on, we didn't really quite know what was going to happen. This last season was kind of a run and gun in some ways. It wasn't episode to episode. We were figuring it out, but we now had to shift gears and go from, this 4 more seasons idea of how to wrap storylines up and where they're going to go into, okay, let's get rid of all that and let's start from scratch, basically, where we left off on that massive cliffhanger from season 3, and let's go from there. So, I had early conversations with Todd and about what we were going to do, and I'm like, okay. I mean, at this point, I'm game. We have a very great relationship on the show, from cast to crew to writers to producers. It's always been very low ego and very open. If you have suggestions or ideas of what you want to do, it's very collaborative. And that, to me, is what made the final product so good, is because it wasn't so precious to one individual. We were all open to hearing others' ideas, etc. So this last season, especially, there was not going to be a whole lot of pushback on my end. Not that there needed to be anyway. They wrote some beautiful stuff, but I knew what they were up against. A third of the budget and 10 episodes, and now we're shooting episodes in 7, 8 days instead of having 9 or 10 days, and all these different things. So it's like, okay, tell me what you want to do, and I'm going to make it happen for you. Basically, is kind of how we played, or at least how I played this one out. And again, I think with the constraints of what they had to deal with, they did a really awesome job.
Did you ever get the fear, Eric? Like we've seen a number of shows, and they're part of the psyche of a lot of people, and then they do come to an end. And I felt like, shows like, for example, Big Bang Theory wrapped up genuinely really nicely. You kind of go, what, that's kind of the end of that. That's done really well. But then you get some that are quite maligned, like, for example, Game of Thrones. That felt rushed, and a lot of people weren't backward at coming forward about saying about that. People didn't really enjoy the end of Lost, and to that extent. Did you ever have that fear where you go, Christ, what if they don't like it?
Yes, and to be honest, I mean, look, of course it would have been nice to have another at least couple of seasons to wrap things up, and in some ways stuff felt rushed at times, but I think we masked that as well as possible. There's only so much you can do about situations like this. And so, for me, none of it hit me personally. I knew that this wasn't a personal attack against me or my character or any of the other, cast. This is basically the deck of cards we were dealt, or the hand of cards we were dealt, and we're all going to figure out how to make the best out of it. And so, yes, in some ways, I feel like it was preemptive, and I wish we would have gotten a little bit more time to do it. So in that way, I guess it was rushed, but I do think it wraps the show up nicely. It is a very heavy season. The last two seasons have been pretty heavy, but it's beautifully poetic. And I'm not going to give too much away, and I don't know how much you guys have seen of the season either. I know you get early stuff here and there, but it's it goes a place that I think will pleasantly surprise a lot of people. And again, keep stocking up on those tissues, man, because you're gonna need them.
Do you know what I've got to say? I mean, you mentioned the budget earlier on, and I can't actually tell where that budget is because it's still an amazing show. I mean, it's sort of. I mean, I've never seen a more aggressive sort of animalistic Lex Luthor before in my whole life.
Oh man.
I mean,
Cutlets
that guy
is
literally
incredible.
is the first Lex Luthor to date that I know of that actually gets his hands dirty. And in the last episode with Clark Kent, fighting in the streets, my God, it was like Sunday night football. It was like you yelling at the screen, and I couldn't believe it. And I just thought, what a great scene. And I'm looking forward to seeing I'm looking forward to seeing the suit, because we all know that Lex Luthor is going to get a suit. So I'm going to look forward to see what happens.
Ironically, you mentioned Sunday Night Football. It's probably better than the Dolphins have been these last few weeks as well, and it's the same colours as the Dolphins uniform. So you know what I mean. It could be could be kinship.
I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I have been for my whole life, and this is by far the worst season we've had in a while, so I can relate to that.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Dak Prescott gets talked about like he's an absolute world beater, but Dallas have been trash for a number of years now.
I can't. I have no way of defending that. You're not wrong. It's I like Dak. I feel like Dak's supporting cast is still the biggest issue. I don't know how you justify paying him $240 million or whatever it was, but hey, I'm not the one cutting the checks. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, no. As far as our show, talking about budget and everything, I mean, a lot of the cuts, unfortunately, and where the budget was cut was with us, the cast, but it's in the time constraints, taking 2 days off of a shoot, things like that. But I think the good thing is we had so much talent behind the scenes, in the writing room, from the producers, our special effects guys, all this other stuff that, and it was just, it cast so well from everybody from our regulars, all of us from day one, to every guest that we've had on the show has been really solid, especially when you come in with a character as iconic as Lex Luthor and you have Michael Cudlitz playing him the way he does. I mean, that in and of itself is going to just level everything up. So, and then the episode you were talking about, this last one that aired was directed by Ian, who started off as one of our ADs. He was our first AD season 1, and then he kind of went up through the ranks and, is our line producer now and has directed a couple of episodes. And he's just, he's one of my favorite people. And that's saying something, because I love everybody on this show. And just his vision, the way he treats everybody, it's he gets what he wants out of everybody with soft hands, if that makes sense. And that kind of goes with everybody. Nobody on there is, rude or, oversteps their boundaries or anything like that. But Ian's just got this touch to him, and he's got when he goes into director mode, oh man, it's incredible to watch. And that whole fight scene, and the red lights and the this and the that, it's just, the visuals that he created were incredible. And I mean, you put Tyler into anything like that. Tyler's a very physical guy. He's a big sports guy and everything. And so you throw a challenge like that at him, and you have this menacing guy in Cudlitz. It's it's a recipe for some amazing stuff.
Because that fight scene, it was like two animals going at it. It wasn't like Hollywood sort of choreographed fight scene. It was just raw. And the only other time I've ever seen Superman in a fight like that was Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. You know, when he gets
Yeah.
attacked, that for me was disturbing. But the last episode, I've got to say, fantastic. But then talking about, we're going to continue with budgets, because we all know the truth that Superman and Lois blew their budget on the song for your wedding. So
Good old Bon Jovi.
yeah, we said that to Sophia last week, because obviously to have a song like that in a show is incredible, because you know, I know it can cost a few pounds, but what a great story for you and Sophia to play out. I just think it's fantastic. You know, the whole wedding, the runaway bride, and the connection you have with Clark as well during that time. I mean, what was that storyline like to play out? Because you had some really touching moments, you had some really fun moments, and the thing I like about Superman and Lois is a great mixture of a lot of heart and soul, comedy and drama. So, what was that like to play out that sort of storyline?
I mean, first of all, Sophia and I, she's a gem of a human being, and my two, almost wife and my first wife in Emmanuel, like, I couldn't have asked for better partners in that regard. They're both just incredible actors and people. And Sophia's, man, she's hilarious. She's got, like, I mean, you can see it, and she was on your show, so I'm sure she gave you some of her personality and everything, but she's one of a kind. And like, we would have, you know, a lot of the stuff for Kyle and Chrissy is inherently awkward, and she's played the awkwardness in Chrissy so well since the beginning, and it just really, it amplifies these moments of awkwardness. And, you know, Kyle is not the smoothest character in the world. He may think he is at certain points in time, but that whole dynamic was just a lot of fun to play with. And then one of the things that I've been really hoping for since early on was, from where Kyle and Clark started, you know, in season 1, they have a long history. These guys have known each other their whole lives, basically. And, you know, Kyle had this bit of bitterness early on from his buddy going off to the big city, et cetera, and kind of abandoning his life and his friends there. And the evolution of that relationship has been one that I really hoped we would see more of over the 4 seasons. And we finally got to see kind of that redemption and that playfulness between Clark and Kyle. And Tyler and I get along so well off screen too, that we're like, hey, we finally get to have these moments, man. This is amazing. So that, you know, the one scene there with the whole awkward handshake and this and that was just some of that stuff in those moments. It was well written, but some of it was just off the cuff. It was just us having fun and everything. And I think that's what makes it, you know, feel so organic and fun, is because that's what it is. You know, it's just two buddies having a good time.
I love how the barbecue, he was saying he was making the meat, and you were like, what? And then you go in and it's like a George Foreman grill. You know what I mean? And he's making the meat. And to anyone that's a big barbecue fan, that is like, what? But yeah, it's a great scene.
Well, and it's a great, you know, shout out to our writers who are able to bring callbacks like that from the very beginning. You know, how precious the grill was and grilling was to Kyle in season 1. And so you have a lot of these moments. If you really watch the show and you've paid attention from the beginning, there are these little Easter eggs and these little moments that call back throughout, you know, seasons 1, 2, and 3, that you're like, oh, if you're a devout fan, you get it. And if you're not, it's still a funny moment. But those things like that, like the seriousness behind grilling in Kyle is, to your point, you walk in and you see a Foreman grill basically, and you're like, oh man, okay. this is a huge faux pas. So I love that our writers were able to capture some of those things and drop those little Easter eggs in here and there.
It's fantastic. Right, Eric, don't go anywhere. We're just going to have a message from our sponsors, and we'll be back with you very, very shortly.
Prop Store's entertainment memorabilia live auctions are a fantastic way for you to own a piece of the movies and television shows you love. With over 1,800 lots in this year's London auction, we're going to start by taking a look at Ridley Scott's Gladiator. Or the 1963 Oscar-winning classic Cleopatra, with the costumes of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. And for the first time ever, a rare glimpse into the archive of special effects legend Ray Harryhausen, with Ray's hand-drawn artwork, his personal annotated scripts, and most amazingly of all, the models, castings and sculpts actually made by Ray Harryhausen. A remarkable collection of spaghetti western costumes, including these from the good, the bad and the ugly. And it wouldn't be a prop store auction without Star Wars. This is the famous Mind Trick helmet used in the Move Along sequence on A New Hope. We also have a Sand Trooper costume from the same movie. Our next London auction is on November the 14th through to the 17th, and the catalogue is available now at propstore.com.
So that is a message from our sponsors. I know, some great
Ray Harryhausen. I'm a bit of a Ray Harryhausen nerd, and the jotters, the notepads. Wow.
Yeah. So for all the fans out there that want to get their hands on a piece of movie memorabilia, screen news, props, or costume pieces, we've got a special code that if you go to the
what's the code? Tell them the code, Brian. Tell them the code.
I'll
get
tell
the
them
code.
Don't you worry.
Tell them the code. 10%. Brian's going to give you 10% off. Brian 10. There it is.
Brian 10. It's a simple code. Put it in. You get 10% off. Propstore.com. Go on there. Register for the auction. The auction is very, very soon, on the 14th, and watch out because I'll be releasing a video of me chatting to Tim the other day about some of the Superman pieces that they've got from the original movie, as well as Gladiator, the Green Goblin, as well as Gremlins. They've got pieces from all films. So let's go back to Yes,
actually. Let's bring Erik back in. Erik, you know, we see these memes every year. It's the same ones. I went on a bit of a rant about it on the artist formerly known as Twitter, and one meme that constantly gets spoken about is Die Hard, a Christmas movie. It's been 10 years we've been saying that. It's a joke of a meme now. Come on now, let's move on to something else. Why does nobody ever mention Gremlins? Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm. You know, I guess it would be. Come to think of it.
Well, yeah,
let's do that one. Let's change the joke for this year. Shout, can we please, internet? I mean,
Die Hard will always be a Christmas movie as well.
No, do you know what? It's just a load of blokes in the 40s going, Die Hard's a Christmas movie, and there is not one person disagreeing. Everybody just thinks they're being alternative and edgy by going, oh, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. No, there's nobody out there going, no, it's not. It is.
Yeah, it is.
So
yippee-ki-yay, and we'll stop right there.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother. can't be bad. But yeah, so your wedding scene, I've got to say, was great. The dancing was amazing. Sophia said that you were great at dancing. And we asked
Thank you, Sophia.
Who were the worst and who were the best, and you were on the top of her list for the best. So
from
your point of view, who would you say was a natural dancer out the cast?
And you can't say yourself.
Well, okay, I won't say myself. I mean, y'all saw the impromptu backflip by Michael Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who else is going to do that on the dance floor? That was a bit of a mic drop moment.
But he's Australian, so they're built differently, aren't they? So do you know what I mean?
They are
to do things like that.
Yeah, trust me, that was amazing, and nobody wanted to do a second take of that because insurance would have, there would have been our whole budget had that gone awry.
Oh dear.
But I do want to touch on something that's slightly sentimental here, but I want to bring kind of focus to the whole dance scene, everything like that. So, in the wedding scene and on the dance floor and everything like that, just a fun little anecdotal bit. There's kind of a close up of Kyle's boots in the thing, and then you see Kyle out there dancing his boots and whatnot. That was a tribute to my dad. I lost my dad in January of this year. My dad was a huge dancer, and those were his boots. And so throughout the entire season, I wore my dad's boots, or Kyle wore my dad's boots on the dance floor and everywhere else. So it was just a cool. I told Todd, I was like, hey man, do you mind if I do this? And there was no pushback whatsoever. He's like, absolutely. So it's just, it was a fun little moment that I know my dad, was up there watching and he'd have been happy. And if he were here, he'd be bragging about that. That's for
Do you
sure.
know what? But I am sure he's going to be proud of you so much, because I remember when I heard the news, I messaged you because my dad passed away a few years ago, and it's really hard, especially when you've got kids and family, but it's the memories, isn't it? It's what you do in honor of them. You live your life as they would want you to live your life, and I kept my dad's car, and I've spent so much money on it, keeping it going.
Yeah.
So I think
I
he's
get
laughing at me now, going, "That serves you right," because he never let me drive his car. Any of his cars, he'd never let me drive. So
What kind of car is it?
It's a Honda CRV, which is like a 4x4. It's a 2.2 diesel.
Yeah, a little SUV.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys get the diesel over there. We never got the diesel version of that.
Yeah, so it's a great tank. It keeps on going. But I've had to have the clutch changed. I've had so much stuff changed on it.
What a wonderful tribute! I tell you what, Erik, I must admit, you know, you're kind of fortunate that he had boots that fit with your character. If I'm honest, imagine if he was like a tap dancer. It'd have been a different conversation.
Into the script would have, wouldn't have quite worked.
But how awesome is that? That is fantastic. That is great. And again, it's on film forever. You know, you know. Memories as well for your family, but that's great. I mean, I've got to give a shout out to I don't know if you've seen this. There's a French artist called Mike Posters, and there we go.
I've seen. I interact with him on social media, and he's incredible with what he does. And he sent me that via DM before he posted it, and it looks so awesome, man. Like I need to have that in like full poster size for my studio here.
You're in luck.
You're in luck.
Do you know why? Because
why?
I am sending 2 of them to Sophia. I am sending.
Are you really?
Dylan? Yeah, I'm sending Dylan his. And if you're up for it, I can send you 2 for you as well. To say thank you for coming on to the show, because this is your second time. And these posters are fantastic. Only on one caveat though. If I send you 2 more, would you be able to sign them for me?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I will sign them. Does Dan get one, or are they both going to be?
No, I have to buy it off him, Erik, and type in the code Brian10.
Brian10. At least you'll get a discount.
Yes, we'll get Dan one as well. But yeah, I'll sort out all the postage, return, and everything like that. Won't cost you a penny, but yeah,
absolutely.
I will send them over to you because I think it would be great to have on your wall. I'll send you both copies, one with the Superman and Lois on it and one without as well, so you can choose which one you want up.
Amazing. Thank you.
This artist, literally, you've had all the cast sharing his art. So anyone watching at Mike Posters, follow this man because he does artwork for other shows as well, but he's done some great ones. The latest one he did was Lex and Superman face to face. Yeah, and everyone's thought it was official poster for the show.
How do you know him?
To hire him. Sorry,
how do you know him?
Because when he did the one for Dylan, I literally looked at it. I thought, oh my days, and I thought, you know what? Dylan has sent me so much stuff, like the hats and the jacket. I want to send him something to say thank you. So I reached out to him. And he said he normally doesn't do it because of obviously his art and everything like that. So he's actually sent me the PDF files. So on the agreement that literally I'd only get them printed off for the cast.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I mean, it's great. I mean, it's great to have on your walls, and it's an excuse for me to decorate my office as well. So yeah. Oh, wrong button. There we go. So, so the next thing up is obviously things are getting heated up now on the show. Your ex-wife on the show nearly got killed. Erik nearly got killed. Is Kyle going to appear at some point throughout the season to get his revenge? I mean, will we see his sort of reaction? Is he going to try and knock Lex out?
Kyle will appear. I don't know how much I can say without giving stuff away, because since we've only got 10 episodes this season and Kyle is not in all of them, you know, we've got to make each one count. So we'll leave it at that. I mean, it's not lost on Kyle what happened. But yeah, just suffice it to say that we'll definitely see Kyle again, a couple more times, I think.
Good, because that was a horrible scene with Lana, and lucky for Indy being there,
Yeah.
to hit him over the head with the baseball bat, which, can I add, was Kyle's suggestion, because she said that her dad always said, keep a bat under your bed.
Yep.
So that's good advice. I wouldn't advise everyone out there to keep bats under their beds, but it depends on the area that you live in. So, I mean, personally for me, Kyle has gone through a lot through these last seasons. He's had to deal with his inner demons to other things. Do we think that we will see Kyle have his forever happiness? Is that what the aim is, to end Kyle's story, or is it a case of it's gonna make us think that he's gonna carry on? I mean, are we gonna get that happy ending for Kyle?
Yes, to a certain extent, there is, and you'll get to. No, I can't say much about that. You will. Yes,
wait a second. Spoiler alert. There you go.
And that negates us from all problems. That, Eric, that graphic does a lot of heavy
solves
lifting.
all legal issues, right? Like,
yeah.
Fair enough. Side note: I need to step up our podcast game, because we don't have these graphics and everything on our show. So I'm gonna have to talk to my co-hosts and be like, hey, we gotta step up the game here.
Well, I can tell you the software, and I can help you out by all means. You know what I mean? If you need a producer to press the buttons in the background, I'm your man. But yeah, go.
There we go.
He's got the jacket for it and everything.
Yes, he does. Yeah, I think we'll see some nice, kind of full circle moments for Kyle, and button up some things nicely, and yeah, you'll see a bit more of him.
and there's been rumors that the last episode, all the cast are going to be in it. Can you confirm or deny, Mr. Valdez?
Just tune in. You'll want to see.
Yeah. You could just say,
get the graphic again. Get the graphic again.
No comment. We've just got a comment there from Idris Asylum Comics. You absolutely crushed it as Kyle. Gonna miss the show. Oh, bless. If anyone's got any questions that's watching, please comment. And if you've got time, we can throw them. I was going to call you Kyle then. Of course you're Kyle.
That's
Eric's
fine.
way. So now the show has ended, technically, for you.
Yeah.
You can now admit if you've stolen anything off the set.
What did you rob? What did you rob?
No, he's looking around just in case.
Let's
you could
see.
anything.
There are a couple of things. Hold on one second. Is it handy?
Just while Eric's looking now, I think Chrissy filled up her boot, didn't she? Last time when we spoke last week, didn't she? Did she have like an armful of stuff that she kept? That's right. Yeah, she had.
I can't find it. It's in here somewhere. But I do. Our props guy, who is again just amazing, and we love him. I don't want to get him in trouble, so I'm not gonna like name names here.
Well, it's finished.
But
now, it's fine.
It is over. I did get Kyle's badge and the fire chief thing from his helmet from him. He kind of like handed that to me on the last day. I've got a couple other, I've got my fire chief shirt and a couple jackets and stuff. But I did end up taking, like literally on the night that we wrapped, there's a wind chime that would hang on the Kent porch there. Doesn't ever get any love or attention or anything like that, but it's in a lot of shots if you really look for it. And so I have that on my back porch now here, and we get a lot of wind in Texas. So every time that thing moves around, it just reminds me of the show. I will say though, I'll show y'all this. So I guess it doesn't give too much away, I guess, but there's kind of in tribute to losing my dad and all that other stuff makes you realize how fast life goes by. Being a parent, I watch my son grow, and he's now 6.5, and just watch how fast things go. And our show in and of itself was, I've got a new family, and while it feels like 10 years ago that we started. It also feels like yesterday in a weird way. And so just because of that bond. And so I have a new tattoo on my arm here. I don't know if you can be able to see it, but it says, it went by so fast. And so if you look again at these fun little things in the Kent farmhouse kitchen, there was this crocheted thing above the kitchen sink there. And you will see kind of a close-up of that at a certain point in the series. I'll just say that. And it had the words, "It went by so fast." And every time we would shoot in that house, I would see that. And it would just, for some reason, it just resonated with me. And then the whole time we were doing season 3, that was the whole cancer storyline. And my dad was going through cancer and everything. I just kept seeing this. And so at the end of the show, because my makeup department didn't want me getting tattoos in the middle of the show. At the end of the show, I ended up having that tattooed on me, kind of in honor of my dad and in honor of the show. And one of our costumers who also does tattoos, it's her handwriting. So it's like, there's a whole little, tie into the show and everything there. And then it's just also a really like true to life statement. Like life goes by fast, man. It really does. And you've got to enjoy and soak up every single moment because, you're never promised tomorrow. And whether it be real life, television, whatever it is, I mean, things happen. And so if you're not living and soaking up everything in every moment, then you're really not living.
And you are definitely living life because a little birdie I saw on your Instagram, you had lunch, you had brunch with Mr. Jim Lee.
Yes, I did.
The creative director of, DC,
Small time.
Are you arranging anything that we need to know about?
Man, no, not
Get the graphic.
Get
the graphic.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, do that. Maybe it'll manifest something if you throw spoiler alert up there. No, that was one of the cool things about this is, again, throughout the show, you end up meeting certain people that, aren't on set every single day. And in a weird way, like Jim and I have kind of become buddies over the last 3-4 years over social media, partly because of the show, but also Jim's a pretty big car guy. He loves cars like I do. And so we got to talking about that and then talking about kids and stuff. And I had never met him in person. We started the show in the middle of COVID, and even all the way through season 2, people weren't traveling up to set and doing all that stuff. And also his role got elevated midway through our show to, chief creative officer now. And so he's needed back at home, and wasn't traveling, specifically to shows, et cetera. So we never really got to meet each other. And when I was in LA recently, I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be here for another couple days. I'd love to grab coffee with you or something." And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." So we met up for brunch and we sat and we talked for probably 2.5 hours, and just a bit about the show and a bit about the creative world. But it was just a life chat. Like we talked about kids and we talked about horses and we talked about cars, and he's just a lovely, lovely man. And he bought my lunch, or James Gunn did, or somebody did. It was the corporate card, I'm assuming, because hey, you can still technically write it off. And then I don't know if he wants me sharing this or not, but he let me drive his Ferrari back from brunch to my hotel because he knows I'm a big car guy. And so, yeah, I don't take things like that lightly, And so we just kind of hit it off, and I feel like I've got a buddy for life now and a mentor. He's just he's a legend. It's not using that word lightly. He really is. So it was awesome to get that time with him.
Is it not really lovely to have those proper relationships? Because sometimes, working in the industry that you work in, when it comes to relationship, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's constant networking and all the rest of it. But to sit and shoot the shit about kids and cars and things like that, it's kind of refreshing for somebody like yourself, right?
It is. And, I think for me, it's kind of always, that's how my dad was. My dad never met a stranger. He would talk to anybody and everybody because he loved getting people's life stories. And I kind of inherited that from him. So for me, yeah, early on, there was a bit of a networking element to certain things and certain settings, but I never had an agenda, so to speak. I never approached people with the idea of, okay, what can you do for me because of your position in this industry, et cetera. And I think a lot of people get that. I hope they get that in me, that I'm just a genuine person, and I enjoy people's company. And, I feel like once people kind of feel safe in that regard and realize that I wasn't inviting Jim to lunch to like ask him to put me in whatever the next thing is, they, you have that human level conversation, and titles go out the door, and it's just, just chatting it up. And so throughout the process, I've had that with not only our producers and our writers and this and that, but our camera guys and our grips and our makeup department and our light. Like, I talk to everybody because I just literally love what everybody brings talent wise to contribute to the show, but also just some of them, some of them had kids throughout the 4 years we were there. They got married while we were there, and just talking about life stories, we all got to kind of see each other's life evolve, and it was amazing. And so, on this level, getting to kind of have this time with somebody that I hadn't seen on the daily basis. And towards the end there too, another person I love is Jonathan Gabay over at Berlanti Productions. He came up for the last few episodes and hung out and everything, and just an amazing guy, great energy. And, there's just people at the CW that came up, and towards the end there, a lot of our producers at Warner Brothers, just getting to put faces to the names that I had either talked to or maybe had an email conversation with or a social media conversation with was really nice. And internally, it's nice to get that kind of feedback of that everybody really loved what we did as a show. That's the weird thing about something like this coming to an end, is it wasn't a byproduct of the show not doing well. It wasn't, the show had kind of run its course or the storylines were starting to get repetitive. None of that. There was, for all practical purposes, the show should still be going on. But you throw in, the fact that we started in the middle of a pandemic and the world changed dramatically. Then you throw in a regime change at Warner Brothers, a regime change at DC, a network getting sold. I mean, when you start stacking all of this stuff up, it's amazing that we even got 4 seasons when you think of it that way. So, it's kind of a weird thing that something is going away preemptively, I think. And I think that's kind of the consensus throughout. Nobody wanted to see this show end. It's just a bit of collateral damage with all the changes and, the industry as a whole, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in saying that you're amazed at 4 seasons, because historically shows literally struggle to get past the second season because, it's just costing. And it is sad. I mean, obviously the rumors are, James Gunn and Superman, the movie that's being made, and he didn't want to, to have more than one Superman within the actual universe. I don't know how much truth is in that. I know Dylan gave us his theories around it, but do you know what? It is what it is. We've had a great 4 seasons. It's, I would say, the best Superman show live action that we've had on TV, and I've been a massive Smallville fan since day one. But this show has been raw and been real, and it's had some great characters. I've just got a question there from Hydra Asylum Comics. Was there an episode where you stood back and was just like, wow, that was amazing? That you shot?
There was a lot of those. I mean, early on, first season and a half, we were in a bit of a bubble. Like, Warner Brothers had us kind of on lockdown. They didn't want us interacting with anybody. Nobody knew what was going on, and therefore they were being super cautious because they didn't want production to get shut down because of whatever happened outside of set. So we formed a bond very quickly. And so on days that I wasn't filming, sometimes I'd just go to set to watch because there wasn't anything else I could do anyway. And I genuinely wanted to see my buddies work. I didn't always have scenes with everybody on the show. So, I would want to go see how stuff's going. I read every single script. I'd like, man, I want to go see they're filming that today. Let me go check that out. So there's definitely those moments. There's stuff that happens towards the end of this season, especially during the finale, that was, I can't unfortunately talk about because it will give stuff away, but just like stuff that happens that you'll see the end result on camera, but you don't really see why it's so real or raw. Just the support we had from each other as cast and everything in moments where, if we're doing something heavy or emotional or, very physical or whatever, oftentimes if you're kind of off camera, so to speak, and you're done for the day. I've worked on shows in the past where the actor will just go on about their day. They'll go home, etc., and you end up having to play off of an X on the map box of a camera or something. None of us ever did that. Everybody was there for whomever needed it off camera. And there's some moments where it wasn't even necessarily part of the script, so to speak, but we'd show up and we were there. Or we'd, like, if Bitsy had, she's doing a certain scene here and there, and then she's got to go have a wardrobe change, and Tyler's got to finish up a scene, I'd be as Bitsy for a moment or something like that, and vice versa, just so that there was never that void in human interaction and everything. And I think that really is why every moment feels so raw and real, is because we were working opposite each other, and not, it was just an amazing chemistry all the way around.
And I can't believe there's only a few more episodes to go. I think the last episode airs on, I think, the 2nd or 3rd of December.
I think it's December 2nd.
Yeah.
And it's getting real, man. Like, the day we wrapped was extreme. I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional person. And there's, at some point, video is probably going to surface of me crying my eyes out on set after we wrapped and everything. And I'm okay with that, because that's just who I am. But, we kind of went through that, and then we had our wrap party, which was fun, but also then that was kind of the secondary, like, okay, bye. And then all of us left Vancouver, and we're like, oh shit, that's kind of, it's like this slow death, right? And so, yes, we finished it, but, now it's still out there and it's still airing. So we're still kind of holding on to that last little bit. But man, when that finale airs and that's definitively it. I mean, I know that the show will live on streaming and whatever else for years and years to come, but that will be it. And I'm starting to feel that, and it was great. On one of my LA trips recently, I just literally put a group text out to the cast and Todd and them, and was like, hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. If anybody's free to have coffee, let me know. Next thing you know, it's like boom, 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 and everybody's planning a get together. And Todd's like, I'll host and we'll order food. And so we have this random impromptu get together where we screened the first 2 episodes for us at Todd's house and had like amazing pizza and wine and pasta and salads.
Wow.
And all from that's the kind of relationship that we have. Is it's, it wasn't a bunch of people making excuses, which happens a lot of times in LA. And it wasn't somebody being like, yeah, I'll meet up with you. No, there was like, just from a random text that I'm going to be in town, it brought everybody together again. And man, that's the kind of stuff that I'm just really, really missing already. And once that kind of final nail in the coffin of the finale airing happens, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. We could all get you all the cast over to the UK for a big convention.
Please do.
We'll come down.
I would be
awesome.
We'll come down.
I would
We'll
love
bring
an
some
excuse to
posters.
get back over there.
Yeah.
I'll pick up my new hat.
Yes, I'll deliver. I'll hand deliver it to you.
So before we bid farewell, and this is heartbreaking for me as well, because now I've had you and Sophia and Dylan, and I've been thinking this is the last time I'm going to have you guys on for Superman and Lois, and it is heartbreaking because every single season I get excited, and I mean, even though I get advanced episodes sent to me, I don't watch them because I want to experience it like the fans. I want to have that experience. It's like that with a show called From that's on TV at the moment. I've got all the episodes right to the finale, but I don't watch them in advance because it spoils it.
Whereas I'm the other way, Eric. I want it all in my
Dan's
face
like, I've seen everything
right now. I need it all, and I know that for example, I've got like 3 episodes left, and I know it's going to end on a cliffhanger, like an American series would, right? And you're kind of like, well, I'm going to need them all now, and then I end up going to bed at 3 a.m. and you know what I mean? That's just because I needed one more. I needed another fix. I'm like a junkie when I'm involved.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your podcast. So let's talk about your podcast.
Thanks for bringing that up. Sure.
Which is Cars and Kicks, which is a great podcast. You're one of the hosts. If you could tell us a bit about it and where we could find it.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a passion project that I've kind of had on the shelf for a while. cars, it's no secret. I'm a massive car fan. If you don't know that, then that's just probably because I haven't put it out there enough on social media or whatever. But I've owned cars, tons of cars. I've raced cars for many years. It's just part of who I am, and I love sneakers too. It's always kind of been a thing for me. And a couple buddies of mine who are more heavy in the sneaker space, we were talking a couple of years ago, really, when we first had this concept, and we realized the crossover in those two worlds, as different as they are, is pretty heavy. And now that we only launched just a 2.5 months ago, something like that. I think we just aired maybe our 8th or 9th episode, and we're finding that the storytelling, we've had some guests on now and everything, and amazing stories come from these guys, and the whole thing behind cars and sneakers is, on the surface, one of them gets you from point A to point B in a hurry. The other one gets you from point A to point B and keeps your feet, in check. That's really what they are. They're goods and products to take care of you. But there's so much more to that, to a large group of people and their forms of self-expression, and the design elements behind it, the engineering behind both things is just fascinating to me, and we're finding that it's resonating with a lot of people. And so we're off to a really great start. It's hard, as you guys know, to grow anything organically. We just kind of did this on a whim, but it's been a lot of fun. And to me, I love the podcast world because you get to have these kind of long form conversations like I'm having with you guys right now, and you get these little anecdotal bits behind the person, the guest, or whatever it is. And so we're really enjoying it, and we're hoping to continue doing it for quite a while. It's called
go on. It's called.
Yeah. It's called Cars and Kicks. It's Cars X Kicks Show on Instagram, or you can go to carsxkicks.com, and that'll link you to all the. We film every podcast, but if you just want to listen to it, it's out there on all the streaming platforms and stuff as well. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We've had a couple really good guests the last 2 episodes, and one that we just did yesterday, which will be coming out soon. Just great stories, man.
So I tell you what, next time
Yes.
you record it, come here. Do me a favor. Can you float that the Nike Air Jordan is a really ugly trainer? It's a really ugly sneaker. It's ugly, especially
Which
the low
one
rider
are you speaking of? The Air Jordan 1, or all the way up to what are they? The 32 now? You got to be more specific, Dan.
Well, they call them the pandas, don't they? The black and white pandas. They seem to be really
That's
popular
a dunk.
right now.
See,
I
was thinking
that's
about
the dunk, is it?
I was thinking about inviting you on the show, but if you don't know the difference between a Jordan and a dunk, it's just never going to work, Dan.
They have Air Jordan stamped on them, don't they? I don't know. I'm not a sneakerhead.
I get my shoes from Skechers. All right.
Oh,
So
now,
I'm out the game.
I tell you what, though, Brian. Actually, right? There's a genuine Skechers for us were like the cheap ones, like Gola and High Tech. You know what I mean? Skechers is one of them.
Sure.
But out there, it's got a bit of clout. You know what I mean? There's an entire bunch of people who like Skechers. You know what I mean? And they like them for the comfort and the bridge support. It's all about bridge support.
They get me from A to B. But talking about cars, my dream car is a '69 Charger. Why?
Nice.
Because of Dukes of Hazzard.
Yes.
That is my, because over in the UK, our introduction of American cars were through shows like Knight Rider and Dukes of Hazzard. I tell you who would be a great guest on your show.
Who's this?
It's a man called Jack Gill. And he is
Jack
a
Gill.
stunt coordinator. And he's a stunt man. He coordinated all the Fast and Furious movies. But he was
That's why the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was the one that drove the Knight Rider car in all the shows. He was a stuntman, and he was the one.
He drove Kit.
Yeah, and he was the one that drove Dukes of Hazzard, the General Lee.
Oh
So,
man, I'm gonna have to look him up.
If you want his details, I can fire over his email. But
Please
he's
do.
a great guest, and he's got amazing stories. And he is like a motorhead. He loves his cars, absolutely loves it. But before we bid
That's
farewell, electric cars, are you a fan or you're not a fan?
I am a fan of everything, and I'm not just saying that to not have anybody alienate anybody. I have currently in my garage, I've got a 72 Chevelle SS. I have an 06 C55 AMG. I have a Polestar 2 that my wife drives daily. I have a Rivian R1T that I drive daily, and that replaced my Raptor. So, and I've owned, I think the Rivian is the newest vehicle, and that's number 68 or 69 for me. So I've owned a lot of vehicles. And I will tell you this.
What year Raptor was it? Because I absolutely love those things.
2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Ones, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I missed that truck, but it was a situation where, when I lived in Southern California, I used to take it out to the desert and rip it in the desert and everything, and it was great. Even up in Vancouver, it's a little big for some of the trails up there, but my son and I'd go out and find some trails up near Whistler and just go off-roading a bit. Out here in Texas, I'd drive it to the grocery store, and there's not a lot of places to do like Raptor things out here. There is, but you got to drive for hours and hours, and so I was like, man, it's kind of overkill, and I was intrigued by the Rivian. And to answer your question, Brian, I'm not anti-EV, but I will also always love the sounds and the smells and everything that's associated with internal combustion. That's never going to leave me. But this Rivian, I was intrigued by since they announced it a few years ago. And then a buddy of mine, automotive journalist over here in the States, Johnny Lieberman, he works for Motor Trend. He has one. He was one of the first people to get one. And I asked him, I said, how do you like that thing? And he drives everything. He's an automotive journalist. He's like, best car I've ever owned. I was like, okay, can you connect me with them? So we did, and their PR people took care of me and gave me a pretty solid deal on it. So I was like, well, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I'll do a lease on it, and that way if I don't like it, I just turn it back in at the end of the lease. No harm, no foul. But I got to tell you, it's an incredible truck. It's quiet. It's smooth. It has 835 horsepower, so it does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat, or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. Since we're talking to UK fans here,
the first time I saw the Rivian was about 4 years ago, and it was a show on TV called Long Way Up with Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor. And they used the Rivian,
amazing show,
as like backup cars. Like
it was their support vehicle while they were riding the electric Harleys. Yeah,
and amazing vehicles. I mean, I would have an electric vehicle. The only thing that puts me off is the fact that after a certain amount of years, like anything battery, the miles will go down. It will diminish in capability, capacity.
Sure.
And I've had friends that have had to have batteries replaced, and the cost of that is phenomenal. So it's
astronomical at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I think,
do you not feel like we're gonna move somewhere though, to the point like where people are gonna start getting pissed off at having to wait 40 minutes for their car to charge? Where we're gonna bring in a new model where they literally just replace the whole battery. You pull up, new battery, on you go. That surely seems like a more economical solution to me. That instead of just having these charging points, just have pre-charged batteries and you just dump one in the car and off you go. Right? Does that not seem sensible?
That may be one route that they're exploring. They're also looking at battery technology, and solid state battery technology now is allowing you to go from 20 to 80% charge in 5 minutes, which is basically what it takes you to fill up your tank at the gas station or petrol station. So that's something that in technology, as it progresses, cost will come down and the replacement costs won't be so extravagant. And look, if you're at the mercy, at least here in the States, if you're at the mercy of public charging, it's not the best move, because then you're waiting in line, you're having to charge for, 45 minutes here and there, even at a Tesla supercharger sometimes. But if you have the ability to charge at home, which thankfully we do, and that is a luxury, it's not lost on me, especially if you live in LA or New York or somewhere where it's ridiculously expensive to own a home. You're living in apartment buildings and you're having to share space with other people. You're not going to have the luxury of charging at your own place. We do, thankfully, and therefore it makes a lot of sense, because all I do is plug it in and it charges overnight. It's like my phone, and I get up in the morning and I'm good to go. And if I do want a road trip, which I have done some small road camping trips with my son, I've got the adapter to stop at Tesla superchargers, and by the time I need to charge, I need to get out and stretch my legs anyway. I'm 45 years old these days. I can't just drive for hours on end. Yeah. So I get out and I stretch for 15, 20 minutes while it charges up, and then I'm on my way again. So is it the future? I don't know. I feel like it is. For a variety of reasons, but this again, we could talk for another hour on this. This is where I geek out when it comes to car technology.
Yeah, let's just listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I think the key is, if people want to find out about Teslas and electric, because I know one of your co-hosts had a problem with his battery, which you had to
It
get
did.
replaced, which was quite enlightening to find out. But yeah, so anyone watching Cars X Kicks, yeah, that's it, Cars X Kicks,
Cars X Kicks show
podcast on Instagram. Check it out, have a listen. It's a great bunch of guys talking about everything about cars and everything else. But Erik, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Please don't go anywhere yet. We're going to end the stream and we'll say goodbye properly afterwards. But thank you so much for being Kyle and giving us Kyle for the last 4 seasons. You know, thank you so much. It's heartbreaking. I don't want to say goodbye.
Yeah.
I don't want to say goodbye to the characters.
I know.
to
Well,
the
I do
show.
want to say thank you, you guys for being so supportive since day one. Again, you mentioned this is now my second time on the show, and you've had a lot of other of my castmates on several times, and that's great. We love to see the support from, folks that genuinely like it and that have a voice like you guys do, and a platform to share that with other people who may have not necessarily found us in other ways. So it means a lot to have that support. So thank you guys for that throughout the years.
Oh, it's an absolute honor. But everyone else watching, thank you so much for checking out the show. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I'm 12 subscribers away from 3,000. I'm 12. I just need to get 12 people. So I'm going to do this sort of teenager thing where it goes hit subscribe and like and all that jazz. I should get my 11-year-old girl up here. She knows all the lingo, like rears,
all the lingo,
all the words,
and all that.
Ring the bell.
Yeah. But look after yourself. We'll see you next week live with Alec Garfin at 8 o'clock. So goodbye. Look after yourself and stay super, everyone.